All right, so I'm here with,
Stephanie.
and what do you do for a living?
I'm an assistant prof and I'm also a physician. I do addiction medicine and family medicine.
And how did you get into being a prof and becoming a physician?
So I think I was not necessarily interested in the beginning. I didn't really know too much about it. But how I got interested in teaching was because when I was in undergrad, I tried to do tutoring on the side to make extra income to help cover my expenses and my tuition. And then I really enjoyed it, and I think I had a good impact on the students. So then I try to, go into a career where I created the financial literacy curriculum at U of T. And then in terms of the medicine piece, I think I grew up in an area where there was a lot of addictions. And so when it comes to choosing my specialty, I really liked addictions, and that's how I ended up choosing it.
Could you just walk us through how you grew up and dive a little more into you growing up around addiction?
Yeah, I actually grew up really close to here on Spadina and College, just around this area. There was a homeless shelter there that helped my family a lot. It was called Scott Mission, and they provided me with clothing, food, and a lot of supports. So growing up in that kind of neighborhood, that setting, I did see a lot of addictions, a lot of mental health issues, and that's kind of what made me want to decide to go into that area.
I see. And how did you manage to, growing up in that kind of environment, to excel and now become a professor at U of T and a doctor? How did you go about that?
Yeah, it's definitely really hard, but I guess the biggest suggestion I would have is try to take advantage of every opportunity that's given to you. Put yourself out there, and don't be afraid of the past that you came from. Like, there was a point in time where I was kind of ashamed of having that as a background because I didn't want to be seen as, the low-income student or anything like that. But I think as I became more comfortable with having that in my past, and, just putting myself out there and trying different things, not being afraid to try different things, I think it got me more opportunities along the way.
I see. So just putting yourself out there and stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, that's true. And also finding mentors too, right? Applying for scholarships, applying for grants. When you really go looking, there's actually a lot of supports out there.
How much are you making now as a physician and a professor?
So I make anywhere between $350 to $450K. $450K more so last year when I had to work 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. But I would say on average, physicians across Canada in family medicine, it's around $250, and then specialists around $350 ballpark.
And I know that going to med school and just doing the path to get to the point you're at carries a lot of debt. How much debt did you graduate with, and how did you pay it off if you did?
Yeah, so I graduated with around $100K in debt. During medical school, I got a lot of grants and bursaries, but I also worked part-time as well, and that definitely helped. I got roommates, or I tried to commute as much as I can. So yes, I graduated with about $100K in debt, and that was a while ago. Now it's a lot of students probably graduating with much more. And then when I became a staff physician, so you graduated everything, you're finally working, I really went hard on trying to pay down that debt. And luckily I was able to, because I was fortunate enough to be making enough income and putting all that income into that debt. And I try to live very frugally as well. I lived with housemates even though I was a staff physician, and I also really try to save up whenever I can. Luckily it was during COVID, so I didn't get to travel or spend anything at all.
Well, it was easy saving up during that time.
Exactly, yeah.
I know you said you started the financial literacy class here at U of T. What drove you to do that, and how was that process?
Yeah, so the financial literacy class that I initially started off with the Community of Support, which is a program for low-income or equity-seeking students who want to, gain some financial literacy skills, gain mentorship in people who are in medicine or the STEM field. So I started initially as an affording medical school class. Then it kind of branched off into the whole curriculum for all of the medical students. And I think part of the reason why I wanted to do it was because in my own family, I didn't really have anyone who knew about finances or really understood anything about investing or saving or anything like that. And I figured a lot of students who might come from low-income backgrounds would be just like me. And I realized that even people who didn't come from low-income backgrounds, they also had the same issue as well. They may not necessarily be financially literate. And so the class is meant to help everyone.
I think it's a great idea. What advice would you give to someone that is either coming from a low income or not, or just like coming from a bad place and just A, wants to be better, and B, just for those people who want to take your path and become a doctor and get to the place you're at, what would you tell them?
Yeah, my biggest advice is to pay it forward. We're in a like regardless of where you are in life, you always have like privileges. You're living in a country where there is acceptance of human rights. We're in a country where there are supports out there for you, and I think like having lived both low income and also experiencing high income. You always want to never treat anyone not the same way you would treat someone like treat yourself or your friends. Don't ever look down on people because you never know if people are going to be in a hard place.
Perfect. That's all the questions for me.
Great.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your time. Appreciate it.